Okay, thank you. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional, ancestral, unceded territories of the First Nations and Native American peoples. Here where I am in Vancouver, these peoples are the Musqueam, Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Stolo nations. But I know where many of you are, you're on the land of other nations. Always, but especially during this difficult year, if we could remember our connection to our sisters and brothers on these nations, and pray for the day in which we might be with them in right relationship. Welcome. Welcome to Living Interfaith. Know that the whole of you is welcome. You're not asked to leave who you are in your own homes. Please bring who you are in with you. But what you are asked to remember is that everyone around you has brought who they are in with them as well. And all of goodwill are welcome. When you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Before we get going, I have just a few announcements. So next Saturday, April 24th, the Living Interfaith Church, our sister congregation, will be having their service. They always meet a half an hour later than us. So it'll be at 10:30 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'm not sure what they're going to be celebrating because last time it was a different thing than I was thinking. But if you are interested, let me know and I'd be happy to get you the Zoom link. Also today, all day from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., Guru Nanak's Free Kitchen, which is a big Sikh organization here in the lower mainland of BC, is doing a fundraising. It's going to be a drive-through fundraiser. So if anyone lives in the Surrey area at West Coast Home and Trust, they are collecting donations and they're raising money for a building that they're hoping to buy in East Vancouver. That will allow them to have a big kitchen to provide langar, so free food for all, in like the Strathcona area. So really to help homeless folks. And either if you want to drop off anything there, or they also have a fundraising link. I'll put it in the chat. And they're an amazing organization. They rescue food from like grocery stores and other places that have food that's about to expire, and they deliver it to people in reservations and in homeless areas. So anything you'd like to donate to them would be most appreciated and would be wonderful. Thank you. And also in honor of Earth Day, which is next week, the Surrey Interfaith Council is going to be hosting a roundtable discussion about faith traditions and the environment. It'll be on Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. Everyone's welcome to participate. And if you're interested, just let me know and I can get you the Zoom link. And finally, there is at the school where I attend, the Vancouver School of Theology, we have a big interreligious studies department. And every year we have a conference. And this year the conference will be May 25th through 27th. It's an academic and community conference. So it's both for scholars, but anyone in the community who's interested in interfaith things. And I believe it's $50 for students and $100 for people in the community, but then there are also some scholarships. And right now they're taking you can sign up. So if you're interested, let me know and I can get you the link for that. The topic is going to be, I believe it's thoughtful activism and religion. So it should be really interesting. And I'll be presenting a paper at the conference, inshallah, on how peace can be found in the Middle East through our faith traditions, rather than using our faith traditions as a reason to fight each other. So that will be good if I ever finish that paper. So thank you. So I think that's it for announcements right now. Are there any others that anybody has you'd like to share about anything in your communities? Okay, thank you. Let's just come into silence for a moment. The self indeed is below. It is above, it is behind, it is before. It is to the south, it is to the north. The self indeed is all this. Verily, he who sees this, reflects on this, and understands this, delights in the self, and sports with the self, rejoices in the self, revels in the self. Even while living in the body, he becomes a self-ruler. He wields unlimited freedom in all the worlds. But those who think differently from this have others for their rulers. They live in perishable worlds, and they have no freedom at all in the worlds. This is from the Chandogya Upanishad. And from the Rig Veda, on the absolute reality and its planes, on that finest spiritual light, we meditate as remover of obstacles, that it may inspire and enlighten us. And now, if you'll join me in a passing of the peace, feel free to unmute yourselves if you like. And this is where we share peace with others in the community. Peace, everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Peace to all.
Peace be with you all.
Peace be with you.
Peace, everyone.
Peace be with you.
Peace.
Peace to you.
Be with you.
Everyone.
Thank you. When you're ready, Bruce and Sharon. Beautiful. Thank you so much. Now, if you'll join me in our joint affirmation, we come together in peace. We sing together in joy and with love. We worship together in one house, a house with names beyond number. Our paths are many, our beliefs are as leaves, and the tree that we cleave to is nourished by the light of compassion, justice, and mutual respect. May our lives, our beliefs, and our actions help to bring about the world of love we all seek. And let it begin here. Thank you. And now is when we usually take a few moments to pray in our own homes and in our own ways for something going on in the world. As always, unfortunately, there are many things that we can and should be praying about right now. My concern this last week has been everyone's mental state, given the really difficult lockdowns that we still have here in Canada and in many places in the world. So many of us have lost people, lost our loved ones, friends. It's just the isolation, the grief, the uncertainty, the anxiety, I think is really taking a toll on everyone. So if we could just take a few moments to pray for the mental health and well-being of both ourselves and everyone around us. Thank you. Thank you. When you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl.
What you have on the screen is a refrain for the song, the Sthai. I'll sing some antara, some verses as well. Shri Rama Jayam, 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 Shri
Shri Rama Jayam, 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 Shri Rama Jayam.
That was amazing. Thank you so much. Seriously, God bless Bruce and Cheryl. If they ever needed to take a different gig, we would be at such a loss. We could never replace them. So bless you. It's so amazing. Goodness. And as I usually say, now is when we would usually pass around a basket. But in lieu of that, in the chat, I'll just put our donation page. Many of you do donate, and I'm very, very grateful. Just keeping us going and paying for our amazing musicians, and also Leslie, who's often with us, all her help in running this. So thank you. Other groups that could use some funds right now, I know Stephen has taught me definitely that the Doctors Without Borders does so much important work in the world. So if you do have some extra funds to go to support what they're doing to help people all over, that would be so helpful. And earlier I mentioned about Guru Nanak's Free Kitchen, which does so much great work here in feeding everybody. I love it. Their saying is love everyone, feed everyone. So I thought that was very cute. Any other groups that need some financial or more tangible assistance right now? Feel free to share about them now or in the chat. Okay, thanks. And when you're ready, Bruce and Cheryl.
From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give. Together we share, and from this we live.
Thank you so much. And now I'd like to introduce my co-leader today, Brother Harsha Palli. He blessedly is actually joining us from Hyderabad, India this morning. So it's very late there. So really kudos to him for still joining us. And yes, so I got to meet him at a meditation that he ran. I know he's associated with the Brahma Kumaris who are here in Vancouver, but he actually, I think, is based in San Francisco and works with the Anubhuti Retreat Center and the San Francisco Meditation Center. So thank you so much for joining us. And this is in celebration of Ramayana week, which is the week leading up to the birth of Lord Rama, Navami. And yes, so we'd love to hear from you. Let me just unmute you if I can. Oh, I don't know if I can.
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Harsha.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Kathy, for this beautiful gathering. And I really enjoyed all the sharings from everyone, and especially the hymn from the Rig Veda about the divine as that sentient point, as a subtle point of energy where to which we all connect to. So in light of Ram Navami, we today being celebrating the Lord Rama, and I have a couple of thoughts which I want to share with you all. You might have heard a lot about Ramayana. Ramayana is one of the main epics of Hindus, apart from the other being Mahabharata, right? And part of Mahabharata is Bhagavad Gita, which is a very sacred book, which is like Bible for Hindus. And Ramayana and Mahabharata are the epics stored in the form of, told in the form of a story, right? And there are different variations, as you hear from different parts of within India and whole of Asia. You get to hear about Ramayana and how it is celebrated. Even in Bali, you'll see it all the way to the in Indonesia and all across from east towards further east, India and further east. Right. So I want to bring some practical aspects to Ramayana, especially in the modern days when we talk about our epics. We talk about what is it that I want to take away from, and especially one of the common things that you hear when we hear from our younger generation is about like, hey, why is Indian scriptures there's always war going on? Mahabharata, there is a big war going on. Ramayana, there is war going on. What's going on here? And if you look at any deities, they always are having some kind of weapons in their hands. So is it a violent culture? If you actually say it is not. And it is the least, it is the religion which spread not by any kind of, it is not spread on the sword in a way. But why is there so much depiction of all the weapons? And towards the deities, if you look at Durga, there is weapons. If you look at Rama, it's a battle. If you look at Mahabharata, it's a battle. And what is going on here? So on that note, I want to shine some light around that. And I want to share some of the slides, if that is okay. So let me quickly start my presentation. And so if you actually see, most of our ancient, most of our ancient traditions and ancient wisdom is passed on by word of mouth, right? And especially when you tell some lessons in the form of a story, it sticks with you for a longer period of time, right? And especially if I start writing down some clear statements, do's and don'ts and things like that, right? It may be misinterpreted, and as the culture goes by, the way we present it, it may go out of relevance, right? So when we tell something in the form of a story, it stays with them, and then the story is more of a, there is a moral behind it, and you can still use the story at different, any point of time in the timeline, it still becomes relevant. I just want to share some of the thoughts around that. If you look at Ramayana and you look at all the characters in it, right? There is different ways. How do you personify Ramayana? So the major character, the main character of Ramayana is Rama, right? And Rama, there is actually 3 different versions of Rama. If you actually go through the scripture, there are 3 different versions of Rama. One is Dasharatha Rama, the son of Dasharatha. The father of Rama is Dasharatha. The son of Dasharatha is Dasharatha Rama, right? And other one is Atma Rama, the soul, the spirit itself is the Rama, right? And then there is Nirakar or Rama, and then the Lord, like Kathy was referring to, that sentient light, and that light, God himself, is referred to as Rama, right? And that there are different versions of Rama, and how you what character that you put into, you start getting a different version of Ramayana altogether. So if you quickly run through the characters of Dashratha, and if you look, most of the Eastern names or ancient names, there is a meaning behind the name itself. For example, my name is Harsha. Harsha means happy, right? And similarly, Dashratha. Dashratha means, Dash means 10, right? And Dashratha is the one who has conquered 5 senses, right? There are 5 physical senses, and then there are 5 subtle senses, subtle organs of the being itself, right? I, the being, when I'm in this body, I'm expressing and experiencing through my 5 senses, right? And similarly, apart from these 5 senses, there is this subtle senses, and then these 5 subtle senses is mind, the one where we have this creative mind, thoughts and emotions, and that part of the mind. And there is intellect. There is this the wise part within our consciousness, which we call intellect. And then there is our character, which is imbibed within us as we go through this journey, we call sanskaras, right? And apart from these 3, there is this what we call attitude as itself, which is playing out, vritti, and other one is smriti, right? So what awareness, what is your presence, what is your sthiti, what is your stage, right? So these 5 subtle part of us controls the consciousness itself, right? So Dashratha is the one who has conquered all 5 of them. He's not under the influence of anyone, right? If I am under the influences of what I see with these eyes, I'm not under control, right? So Dashratha is one who has conquered all of these 10 senses, 5 physical and 5 subtle. And the one who is Dashratha is bestowed with 3 wives, and their names are Kaushalya. Kaushalya means somebody who's prosperous. Prosperity comes with somebody who has conquered all the 5 senses, right? And Sumitra and Kaikeyi. So all of these queens has a different. Sumitra, Su means somebody, Mitra means somebody who is a friend of everyone, right? And once who has conquered these 5 subtle senses and the physical senses, they will not have any enemies. Everyone will be their friend, right? And same thing with Kaikeyi. Kaikeyi is also known for prosperity and all the wisdom and all the wealth that comes with it, right? So, and they are bestowed with 4 children, Rama, Bharat, Lakshmana, and Sugriva. Right? Each one personifies different characteristics. Right? We'll go further detail. And one of the major character is Sita. Sita is representing the purity of the soul. Right? Sita is representing purity. Even if you burn in fire, nothing can happen to something which is pure. Just imagine there is some impurity if you take a gold, and if there is some alloy mixed into that gold, if you put in a fire, all the alloy will burn away, and then liquid will become like a liquid, and then the pure things comes out of it. Sita represents purity of our consciousness, right? And there are different stories, and each character, and there are a lot of other characters. Lakshmana means one who has a lakshya, means aim, right? And Bharata is somebody who is devoted to a cause. And Sugriva is one who is always support for a major cause, right? Who always supports the major cause and who's always incognito. He's not somebody who's visible, prominent, but who's always background and who's supportive, right? So each character in Ramayana represents a unique quality, quality of that character. But as we go through, each of these characters play in a different forms, right? And if you actually see, all of these qualities are there within each one of our consciousness, right? And the way Ramayana depicts is like, see, but as we go through this journey, one part or the other part will is flaring up, right? And when we go through the challenges and struggles in our life, like Kathy was calling out, like as we are going through this, somebody who lived amongst many people, interacted with many people, all of a sudden they have to put alone and not much interaction. You feel cut off, you feel lost all of a sudden. And in a way, it is a challenging situation for we as a being, whatever challenges that we are facing with. Either there is discrimination, or either it is a COVID, or either it could be a fires that is going on in California or any other places or in Australia. There are challenges constantly that will be flooding our lives. So Ramayana represents when you face with challenges, what part within you should you work on? How do you navigate yourself through the challenging situations? That is what it's trying to represent. I'll give you one of the examples. So one of the things is Vishwamitra and all the saints start the yajna. Yajna is for the good wellness for the whole humanity, right? But especially when they were trying to put on this yajna, always this asuras. And again, asura is another character. It is a combination of two words. A means somebody which is off, sur means somebody which is aligned, right? When somebody who's went out of alignment to their own truth, went of alignment with their own inner divinity, right? And they present themselves out of tune to their own truth. And that is nothing but we present itself as an evil or something destructive, right? And then that is why in Bible when they say that don't hate the sinner, but the sin, right? So you have to separate a person from the act, and don't identify a person with an act. You have to separate it out, right? Just because somebody out of their consciousness, they did something wrong, does not make that person a wrong person altogether forever. You cannot deem them forever. And how are we going to, and why am I bringing this up? Is like, this is one of the character, like asuras. Asuras are, when we tell, these are devils, right? What is a devil? If you actually see, when I, the conscious being, went out of alignment with my own inner divinity, I become devil itself, right? It's all about aligning itself to our truth. And that is where what takes us out of alignment is our external things, right? When I, the conscious being, get caught up in these fleeting pleasures of the world and fleeting pleasures of the senses, and then I act, judge, and label people based on what benefit I get, my sensual benefits I get, that fleeting benefits that I get from the senses. And that drives our actions. That becomes a very evil act, right? And that is why if you actually see most of this personification of this scene in Ramayana, whenever they try to put on the sacred yajna, all of these asuras come and then put all this flesh and blood and flush the whole yajna with flesh and blood. So in other words, what is that they're trying to represent is flesh and blood is nothing but they're trying to represent all of these five senses, right? And when we, the conscious being, the yajna is that pure sacred desire to commune with the divine, right? And it is what is the deepest heart's desire. And then we even use this, it's a fire of love. We even use that, right? It is tapa. Tapa means the fire, the deep heart's desire of every conscious soul to connect to the divine, that pure love of the divine, right? And in that comes the sacred fire. That is the true yajna. What is putting off that yajna is these five senses, right? And this is the depiction as a part of this scene. So in order to protect this yajna, they bring Ram and Lakshmana. The major saint, there is the wise being within our consciousness saying that I want to stay pure, I want to stay aligned to my truth and my own goodness, right? And there is part within us which is tempting, like jealousy or anger and rage and sense of justification for something that has done somewhere in the past. And then we want to take revenge and all kinds of the negativity within us, right? And there is the battle that is going on within us. And there is a wise being within us which wants to stay in touch with your truth and commune with the divine and all of these things, right? All of these characters are playing within our consciousness, right? So, and this is when the sages bring in Ram and Lakshmana to protect this yajna. And Rama and Lakshman is the one who has laksha. Laksha is the one who has an aim. When you align, when you bring your attention back to your laksha, to your aim, to your destination, what makes sense, what matters more to us, right? When you bring the attention of your mind to that part, you activating the Lakshmana within you. And then the laksha comes alive, right? Rama is the one which represents actually the soul, right? It comes alive. And once that flame comes alive, the yajna is restored. And then you, the conscious being, will not get distracted by the temptations of the flesh and bones or the distractions of the worldly things, right? And this is one of the example. Another example is, classical example is as the Sita gets abducted, one of the pieces where Rama takes the support of Hanuman, right? And as along with that, Hanuman has a brother who is called Sugriva. And Sugriva has a blessing that whoever faces him, all of his powers come to him. Whoever he faces him, all of his powers come to him. And here is the thing. Rama, the God himself, when he has to fight the battle, he has to kill Sugriva, he does not face himself, face the enemy. He has to shoot it from the back. And you might feel that, wow, that is so unfair of the God. He does not have the guts to face, but that is the reality of the consciousness. Here is how it is represented. Anytime you try to go against your own temptations, right? You try to use force to suppress your own anger. What actually is happening? So all of the anger itself is a blazing energy, right? Somebody who is angry, you can see how much energy they have, right? They're just yelling out, they're so bursting out with energy, with revenge and all kinds of stuff. It's an energy, literally. It translates into your physical energy too. Not to talk about the emotions that is flaring within your consciousness, right? Especially when you say that anger is not good, and then you try to suppress it. So how much energy it is, you have to put extra energy to suppress it and then push it down, right? And just imagine when the spring, which has so much strength in it, and then you put much more energy to suppress it and then push it down, you have to use more energy than the strength of the spring itself. When you get exhausted and when you're weak, especially when you're emotionally exhausted or physically exhausted, when somebody says something simple, you literally burst out as if the whole suppressed energy is just exploding out of the way. And then you yourself start questioning, what made me do the way I did, right? So in other words, who is Sugriva? Sugriva is nothing but your own self. And Sugriva, your own mind, has all the access to your own deepest desires, to your own deepest phobias, to your own suppressed emotions. You cannot trick your mind. You cannot play games with your mind. You got to be honest. You have to be honest. You can't go head on. Like if you go head on against your own anger, you have to put more energy, and all of your energy goes and adds up to your deepest wounds, right? Say somebody said something mean and then they walked out. And then all along, whole week, you've been brooding over it, and then that emotion is just building up. And after a week, you came to realize that you misheard what he said. And then you realize that, oh, and then you say like, no, I didn't say that. It's not me. It was somebody else, somebody else passing by. And then he has a video footage just to prove you and make a point, right? There is a CC camera, and then he showed like, see, I was not even here. I was there actually. Somebody else talking to somebody else. You misheard it, and then you took it for yourself. And actually what happened behind the scene? That other person didn't do anything to you, but you had made things out of proportion. In other words, in our consciousness, we build the whole pain. And pain is not coming free. It is coming out of your own consciousness. And then you suppressed it. And now you went through a whole painful process. Now your mind will not keep quiet because it has gone through such a pain. It has to justify who is the cause of this pain. Right? And your mind will start spinning, going on. And then you say like, that person is this person is this. And then you went on for 1 week, and then you realize it is not even that person. But the pain, who do you attribute this pain to? It will just get self-imposed on you because it is very black and white now. I created all of this pain. So then what will happen? And then this emotion starts talking about you. You are not labeling anything. And deep down in your consciousness, you start feeling guilty. And then you start saying that I'm not a good person. And then your pain itself is validating, right? So then this becomes your blockers. How are you going to deal with this? Nobody else did to you. You did to yourself because some misunderstanding happened. But pain is pain. No matter what it is, you know it or didn't know it, you wounded yourself. And now your mind will not let go. If it is a physical pain, it will pass by and you go on. If it is emotional pain, you can't. It stays with you unless you let go of it. And that is Sugriva. Every time you go face that thing, it just flares bigger and bigger and bigger. And the wise, the Rama within you, the wisdom within you comes alive. And this is where this story is very relevant. How do you handle that kind of things, right? And this is where Rama comes, the wisdom. It is not just the wisdom, it is that energy that comes alive, right? And in order to win this battle which is going on inside you, you got to be honest with your own feelings. You got to be honest with everything that is going on. At the same time, you need to have Lakshmana with you. You need to have a aim with you. You need to have an aim to sort it out. You want to end this Sugriva forever, right? Whatever misunderstanding, the same thing that Sugriva and Hanuman starts battling because there is a misunderstanding. And then there is a whole story behind it, epic wise, but there is a misunderstanding. The essence is there is a misunderstanding between Sugriva and Hanuman. And Sugriva is blazing with revenge that how dare you take all my kingdom? How dare you trick me into when I went to battle? And then there is some confusion that went on, and that is it. And you cannot win that battle. And the way to win that battle is you have to invoke Rama within you. What is Rama? Rama is nothing but your own divinity within you. You need to feel your own goodness in order to dissolve all your shortcomings. Right? You can't go head on like, oh, I'm a bad person. I'm going to repent for this. And then you start beating yourself up. You can't do that. More you do that, more your sense of guilt starts flaring bigger and bigger and bigger. You're not going to win this battle just facing it, right? And this is one of the things. And the major story, if you start going into this, and this is where comes the story of Rama, Sita, and Ravana. And if you actually see who is Ravana, Ravana is somebody who has 10 heads. This 10 heads is 5 heads of male and 5 heads of female. And each head represents evil within us, one part of evil within us. And this is called Kam, Krodh, Moh, Lobh, Ahankar. Right? So you might have heard these terms like Kam is lust, greed, anger, attachment, and ego is the biggest one. All of these 5, there is a male version of it, there's a female version of it, there is a mellow version of it, which comes in the hatred, which comes in the form of jealousy, and these different versions of it. All of these things represents Ravan. And Ravan is no ordinary man. He's a very wise man. He's the wisest. He's the smartest. And he has a lot of other powers. He has the power to manifest. He has the power to just vanish altogether. You can't pinpoint Ravana. He just comes and changes forms in different forms. In other words, you cannot label that somebody who steals, picks up this from this place to that place is lust. You cannot label one act as a lust or a greed and that. So it is a flavor of it. It is an attitude. It is how you approach. It is the state of consciousness itself, right? Lust is like grabbing things, no matter what. It is grabbing food, or it is grabbing somebody's wealth, or it is grabbing somebody's attention. It is grabbing for name and fame. All of these things falls under the category of lust, right? And that is where Ramana manifests and dissolves as and when he needs. So in order to win over, you need to have Rama invoked. And again, there is a lot of other stories, like when he tells Sita not to cross a line, like there is this golden deer, the Sita gets tempted, and then when the Sita gets tempted for the golden deer, and then she says that, tells Rama that, hey, I want that. It is nothing but a desire. When you have a desire, and then it has to go further and coming in and out, and that is where the problem starts coming up, right? Cool. Okay, so we'll try to wrap it up. Yeah. So one of the main things I want to bring it up to your attention is the way when we start listening to the epics with a context, when you put yourself in the context of it, so then the real personalization starts coming up. And that is when the real Ramayana is about invoking the divinity within you and connecting to the divine and winning over the battles which is going on in your own minds and in your own lives. Yeah, I know this is really a short time to explain something, such a big thing like Ramayana and the Rama himself, and especially when there are so many versions of it. Right? And I strongly recommend you to try out Raj Yoga meditation, and that is where we go beyond religion and all other things, where we start bringing up all that which is common across all the religions. And how do you connect? And it's a meditation practice. It's a Raj Yoga meditation practice where you want to connect and come down. Right? Thank you very much. Om Shanti.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much, Brother Harsha. That was really just remarkable. I didn't know any of that. So thank you so much. Really enjoyed it. I'm sorry that we don't have more time with you. So I hope we have situations where we can spend more time with you.
Yeah. Thank you very much for this beautiful gathering. It is too late for me here. I have to drop off. Thank you.
Sure, no problem. It's very late. Thank you so much. I think Bruce and Cheryl have one more song for us. And feel free, anyone who needs to leave. I know I want to be mindful of time. So thank you. But Bruce and Cheryl, one more song.
Shri Rama Rama Rameti Rame Rame Manorame
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Friends, thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned as much as I did. This was so wonderful. And let's just, going forward, try to find that alignment within ourselves, to hold ourselves in that kind of loving kindness, figure out how to support the Rama within and listen to the Rama within. Thank you.